Okay, our next one here is a PBS. We're getting classy now. And I'm really excited. This is a really fine series, limited series, called Alice and Jack. It comes from a terrifically talented writer, director, although he was the showrunner here and the writer, and a wonderful cast. And I'm going to introduce you to two of them right now, a cast member and the man who created this. First up, he's the showrunner and the writer, Victor Levin. All right, right there. And she is internationally recognized as one of the finest actresses out there, actors working today. Please welcome as Alice, Andrea Riseborough. And thanks for coming, everybody. And this is really cool. I've talked to Vic a little bit about this in the past, and I'm just fascinated about the concept, the structure, how you came up with this idea of these two people, Alice played by Andrea and Jack played by Donal Gleason. And tell us about your initial idea of what you were looking for in telling a story that goes on for 15 years or so between these two people.
Well, Pete, thanks. That was sort of the point, was that it went on for all those years, and yet there was still trouble. And I thought, you know, many love stories play out over a shorter time span. What happens if you have a look at a significant portion of a life? People who come in and go out of each other's lives, their situations having changed, their thoughts about love having changed. How would that change your story?
Yeah, and it's so well told here through 6 episodes, is it? Yeah, 6 episodes, and it goes all over the place. It's really fascinating to watch. I'm going to show you a little taste of it here so you get the idea, but there is so much more than just in this clip. But take a look at Alice and Jack.
Alice?
Jack? Well, your picture didn't lie.
Yours is an understatement.
We'll go to my apartment. You're great. You're kind and you're handsome and you're a good lover.
I can see why you want me to go.
Oh, you got me tired of.
Don't do it.
Why not?
Sick of fearing, hold on.
She told you not to, and she threw you out of her flat. As far as signals go, those are pretty clear.
And she'll never call me again, and we'll all continue forward instead of backsliding into a giant vat of pain.
Except she's here.
You ever been with the same person twice?
It's not like it'll be the first time. Hello!
Hey.
Hi. If I could be with anyone in the world, it would be with you. But it would end in ruins.
So if this is our last night.
Who's Alice?
She's an ex.
An ex. What was Chernobyl? A mishap?
Life is pretty simple for a lot of people. They fall in love and they're all set. No suffering. I should try that.
Before we say goodbye.
Jack?
For those of you who have not spent a lot of time with Alice,
Me like you used to.
be ready for nothing to make sense, and yet for everything to make sense.
I'll be seeing you again.
I just want to be right here in this moment and then the next after that, and then pretty soon we're talking about a whole lifetime of great moments.
I'll be seeing you again, but I don't know.
Are you ready?
He's so ready.
Andrea, what was this like playing this role in this kind of structure and format?
I mean, it was one of the most challenging roles that I ever played, I think, and that was because I came to it probably about 5 years ago now. When Vic sent me the script, he sent Donal the script at the same time, and I came onto it first, and so we were working, you know, with each other we had the first episode, the last episode, and a version of what would be in the middle. And I thought it was such a brave and unique, true script. And as we got to know each other, Vic then started to sort of inject parts of me into Alice. There was a sort of strange symbiosis, which was a very unique experience for me because I normally play people who are quite, sometimes very far away from myself. And this was a sort of psychologically confusing experiment for me. And it became difficult to know where Alice began, where I ended. You know, it was a unique experience. And I think Vic's writing is important because, and I think this is an important part of our story. You know, there are people who respond to this sort of writing and they say, we just really would love the protagonists to be very straightforward and likable and held to ridiculously high moral standards. And I'm so sick of seeing that myself. I know that when I'm in love, I'm a total idiot and have no ability to behave like an even remotely normal human. And I think it's beautiful to see work reflected in that way. And what's gorgeous about the long time as a character in the story, and to see a couple for that length of time. So many of us in life, the younger ones, you have yet to experience this. But so many of us in life, and we know so many love stories that involve people who they don't quite come together, but it may be a beautiful and epic love. And every protagonist, no matter what they've been through, and Alice has been through an awful lot, they deserve their own love story. They deserve to be the protagonist in their own love story. So for all of those reasons, this, and then Donal saying he would sign on, just made it the most beautiful and unique project that I'd read.
I love the fact about Alice that she can't let love into her life. She can do the opposite, but she has a hard time.
And I think we do that as you know, if you have the courage, if you can courageously, truly love someone, you often protect them from yourself in certain ways. And she has quite a lot of damage, doesn't she? And so she in the most loving way, although the fallout is very painful, she pushes him away.
Yeah, it's interesting. Victor, this is it's a masterpiece there, which is really cool when you consider the whole history. It was called Masterpiece Theater, but we shorten everything in our lives today. And now it's Masterpiece, and it's kind of cool to have your name next to Masterpiece.
Yeah, I grew up watching
Amazing, right?
Masterpiece Theater. It was required viewing in our house, and I, you know, I've said all along, one of the many reasons I miss my parents so much is that they would have been so happy about that.
That's cool. Yeah. Talk about the structure. She mentioned the first script and the last script were written, but the middle part was not, and that's how you as a writer approach this, that you knew how to start it and you knew how to end it. And talk about that process. It's unique.
Well, it doesn't have giant story moves in it, so it lives and dies on execution. And I thought the best way to put a good foot forward was to actually write as much of it as I could realistically before I asked someone such as Andrea and Donal to even have a look at it. I didn't want them to be hearing a conversation about it. I wanted them to be reading the thing itself. I mean, it takes almost as much time to pitch it anyway, for God's sake. You're driving all over the place. You might as well just create an asset, write the thing, show them what the dialogue feels like, show them who the characters are, and then everyone knows what it is. And there's no discussion later on about, oh, we thought it was going to be. No. Everybody knows who she is, who he is, and what the stock in trade of the show is. So that's why I did it. It took a little extra time, but I was working with Michael London. I know you guys know him, a fabulous producer who, was so wonderful about seeing the whole field too. And so he could react to those first two scripts and help me make sure that I was, ending us in a place that the first script allowed us to get to. And then, yeah, it was a prose document for the stuff that was in the middle. Here are the events. It wasn't very long, right? Maybe 5-6 pages. But we wound up sticking more or less to it, and it was a roadmap that allowed us to know rhythmically where one episode would end and the next begin.
Cinematically, did you have any inspirations, movies you may have seen that you'd like to do? I know we've talked before about that, and movies we love and things, but what were yours?
Well, yeah, I'm always in favor of inscrutable Europeans, but this time we found an inscrutable Scandinavian, very different. and you know, Juho Kuosmanen, whose work I know you know, a fabulous director, a winner of the Cannes Film Festival, maker of 2 incredible films, wanted to do it because Andrea wouldn't let him say no. You should talk about what you did to...
What about Stalking Juho?
Yes, the Stalking Juho, which is our next film, by the way.
Yeah. I love Vic's script so much, and it was originally, interestingly, set in New York, and we relocated to London, and so there's been a really interesting journey with it. But as I read it, I was thinking, wouldn't it be just so fantastic if it were captured in the most raw, cinematic way? And I'd just seen Compartment Number 6, which was Juho's Globe-nominated film that he made in Finland. He's actually not Scandinavian. I'm so sorry. I'm going to be that dickhead that says this now, but apparently they don't identify as Scandinavians.
I am so sorry.
So he's Finnish.
I have to write a note.
It's adjacent. It's adjacent. And I was shooting in Finland at the time, and so I went and ate some really extraordinary fish that they have at Christmas in Finland, in Helsinki. And halfway through the first mouthful, Juho was like, you know, that is very poisonous. Oh. I was like, that's great, that's wonderful. He's a really funny, dry, brilliant human being and just a fantastic director. And so I suggested that perhaps he might be a wonderful person to go to. And he said yes after my very persistent stalking of him. And then we enlisted Hong Kao, who is a Sundance darling and a brilliant, brilliant director. And I think that the two of them were so naturally, they're both wonderful humans, but they worked together with such ease and kindness. And it made for something that has a sort of both epic and intimate quality, I think.
Oh, yeah. Amazing. How did you develop the chemistry that would be necessary for this? Had you ever worked with Donal before, or how did it happen?
So it was percolating over 15 years, or maybe longer, perhaps a bit longer. Donal and I have known each other the amount of time that Alice and Jack have known each other, and we met in our early 20s. We made a film with Mark Romanek called Never Let Me Go. And then later on, a couple of years later, he played my brother. We played partners in that first film. Then he played my brother in, as Donal and I like to say, not creepy at all. And then he played my brother in a film called Shadow Dancer, which I made. And then we were going to play partners again. So I've seen him grow up, and he's seen me grow up together in the same industry, and he's a really wonderful friend. And he and I have both experienced a great love like this. And so to walk through that narrative, holding the hand of a friend, was very special.
Yeah. Well, you said this was the most challenging part. I can't imagine watching all the parts you played. So many of them are challenging and things. But I don't know how you shot this in terms of continuity and things, where we're going over all kinds of periods in this relationship. As it's seen in the show. So how difficult was that?
Well, we shot in regular blocks, as you would with any sort of television show or miniseries. And that said, as with all shooting, everything's backwards. You know, you change. There are always moments you have to slip in. You know, in the middle of being 40, you just have to slip in a quick scene at 28. Because you're losing the light. And then that's a challenge. That's an interesting challenge as well. You know, it's something we can feel our bodies at different ages in our lives. It's wonderful to sort of play with that, express that. You know, you feel very differently in your body at 28 than you do at 40.
I mean, these two actors are incredibly able to remember the nuances of 28 versus 32 for the character. I mean, that's not the kind of thing you want to go around reminding people of in the shooting day. They just have to have it in their heads, and they did. It's amazing how much you have to carry around when you're covering 17, 18 years in the course of a story.
Yeah. It's amazing. Well, it's challenging, but it's just lovely to look at this and see the entire series and the way it plays out. It's so great. I didn't mention that Vic Levin also has a totally different side. He did Mad About You. You love that show? You know, Helen Hunt and everything. He's done this Unexpected Family with John Cryer right now. He does sitcoms. I mean, he is so versatile, and as a film director himself, a really talented person. So,
Thank you, Pete.
yeah, thank you both for coming out here today. And
Thank you very much,
So
everyone.
much.